What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Flow State with yours truly, Harry Mack. In this episode, we're going to reflect back on some of the highlights of 2024. We're going to talk about what it means to be a role model, how to overcome shyness as an aspiring artist. I'll react to a community-submitted freestyle. I'll react to the first video I ever posted on my YouTube channel. And as always, we'll close it out with some bars. Let's go!
This is from my Flow State. Add it, yeah. Y'all know we back at it. Ain't it crazy how the mind works magic? We gon' show you the method behind the madness, cause this is from my Flow State.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Flow State with yours truly, Harry Mack. This is episode 23. And I'm very, very excited to be here with you all. Thanks for tapping in. Shout out to everybody who's been supporting the pod. We've been having so much fun with it this year, man. It's one of the highlights of the year for me. And yeah, we're back. Here we are. My man Sam is in the Flow Station. What's going on, Sam?
What up, what up? It's a day.
It's a day indeed. How you feeling, man?
Feeling good.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Me as well. Very excited to be here doing our thing. It's getting close to the end of the year. We're approaching the holidays, which is a really nice time. Usually, things start to slow down a little bit. So I always really appreciate that. And for me, and I think for other people as well, the end of the year is kind of a nice time for reflection. And so I usually, as maybe some of the work slows down a little bit, I have a little bit more time to think back on what's happened throughout the year. And I got to say, 2024 has been just an absolutely insane year. So much has happened. To start out the year, I carved out just a ton of creative time for me to really be in my home studio doing a lot of deep work. It was like the first 3 or 4 hours out of every day were uninterrupted for me because that's when I typically feel the most creative is in the morning. And so I made a point of saying I want to really put a lot of time in and a lot of effort toward recording and writing my own original music, which is obviously not what I'm most known for. I'm most known as a freestyler. I'm most known for the viral videos that we create. But I've always been a writer as well. I've talked about this on the pod previously. My first rhymes were not improvised. They were actually written down in a notebook and recited that way. So I just felt a strong calling to get back to that. And so that was a really cool, different way for me to start out the year, to really be going full speed ahead, full force, 3 to 4 hours, almost every morning in my home studio, writing and recording. And of course, when I say writing, I don't always mean writing it down. Sometimes I was freestyling on the mic and picking the best moments and sort of chopping things up and rearranging them and sliding them around and punching in. And all kinds of different processes were involved in the creation of the body of work that came from, the first quarter of this year, I would say. And that's a big part of what I enjoyed about that time. It was very experimental. I was learning a lot about myself. I was discovering a lot about what processes kind of work with me, and I guess moreover, discovering that locking in one singular process probably isn't the right way for me, and that I actually like kind of mixing things up and experimenting on the fly and trying different things. Some days feel one way and some days feel different. So, but it was really awesome, and the result was a ton of music. And if you're a fan of mine and tap in regularly with the releases, then we've dropped over 30 singles this year in 2024, which, god damn, man, that's more original songs than I have ever released in a single year, with the exception, of course, of the OB compilations, which are the freestyles pulled from my Omegle Bar series. But in terms of songs that I crafted with choruses and structure and original music releases that weren't improvised on video, by far the most that I've ever released in a single year. So that was a huge accomplishment, something I'm very proud of. The music is really, really special to me. And I'm just excited for all of that to be out in the world. Also, looking back on the year, got to do a lot of crazy collabs, really sick collabs. I got to freestyle for the Yankees during their spring training out in Florida, which was insane. What an awesome opportunity to meet all those guys and such nice people. The people that I got to interact with and talk to.
Head coach is a fan, right?
Head coach is a fan, yeah.
Boone.
Yes, that's right. And a USC graduate as well. So,
so cool.
Yeah. So fight on, go Trojans, because I'm a real sports enthusiast, as you all know. But no, it was really dope to be out there. And I joke, but actually, and I think I've talked about this on the pod previously, I'm not sure, but I am so immensely inspired by athletes. So it's kind of ironic that I'm not a huge sports fan. And part of me feels like I will be at some point, that I'll have my teams at some point, and I'll actually really get into following them throughout the season. I don't know. Who knows? But I do know that even though I myself was never good at sports, and I think subconsciously that made me kind of like push them to the side and be like, it's not about sports, it's all about music. And, I haven't followed a team or anything for many, many years. I'm so incredibly inspired by elite athletes, and I love watching clips. Like, I'll be in tears watching clips of Kobe Bryant talking about his philosophies. And he's a flow state guy himself, I don't know if he uses the term flow state. He may not, but he has a lot of incredible things to share. He had a lot of incredible things to share about, mindfulness. I think he was a meditator. I remember a clip of him talking about his meditation practice. And so anyway, I'm incredibly inspired by athletes. And I had the opportunity to talk a little bit with some of the Yankees players, and that was just really cool to be able to build with them and hear, their take on different things and how what they do and how they train and how their practice, in many ways is related to the way I think about training and practicing as a musician. So shout out to the Yankees. That was incredible. Got to do the Bad Boys movie promo freestyle as well for Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. That was just insane, even to be able to meet those guys who are incredible, but, let alone to be able to have that moment with them where they threw me words for the freestyle. It was awesome. So shout out to them. And lots of incredible live performances as well in 2024. We did the 2 festivals out in Europe, Boomtown in the UK, and then Lowlands outside of Amsterdam. Both just life-changing experiences for me. Career milestones, beyond measure. Just like, those were 2 moments where I was looking out at the audience and it was just like, I can't believe this is real. It's like a tiny part of your brain is like just in awe the entire time. And then the rest of your brain is trying to freestyle and be hype as fuck and get the crowd going. But just amazing, man, to have been able to perform in front of such massive crowds at those festivals and to be so embraced and to see that like an improvised freestyle rap show can really connect with audiences of, upwards of 10,000 people. Like, that's so epic to me. So yeah, that was dope. And then of course, Odyssey Australia and New Zealand. We took the Odyssey tour down under. And y'all brought the motherfucking thunder, baby. It was incredible, man. We loved being out there in Australia and New Zealand. Amazing shows, amazing vibes, great energy from the people out there. Everybody was so nice. But the audiences were so receptive and energetic and cool. But also like all the staff and everybody that we interacted with in the various venues that we were performing in were just amazing people as well. So incredible experience. I'm excited to get back out there as soon as I can. Long flights to get out there, but entirely worth it. So looking forward to the next time. And shout out to everybody that came through and rocked with us, man, at the festivals in Australia, in New Zealand. Thank you. And speaking of touring, I'm just so looking forward to 2025 Anomaly tour. It's going down, man. These are going to be the biggest venues I've ever rocked in. I'm so excited to do the US and Europe again, and the UK. Yeah, man, I'm beyond stoked. And, I'm getting creative as well. I'm just in the phase now where, like I say, end of the year, a little bit more time is opening up. So, I guess in 2023, right, last year, it was right around this time when I was like, man, I think I really want to double down on the recorded music, and the idea just kind of loosely starts bouncing around in your brain before anything is cemented. And that's an important part of the process for me. I kind of start letting things just bounce around in my head for a while before coming up with like a tangible game plan or getting, pen to paper, so to speak. And I would say right now, about a year later at the end of 2024, when we're recording this episode, it's Anomaly tour, man. I'm starting to just get some loose ideas in my head of some tweaks that I want to make to the live show to elevate it and make it even better. Obviously, there's so much about the current version of the live show that I love, that I want to keep. And man, I'm very excited by the idea that I get to do this improvised show that is just so interactive, where I'm literally collaborating with the audience. Every single show is different, and that's not going to change at all for the Anomaly tour. Just so everybody knows, it's an improvised show. The material is different every night, and yeah, I'm excited to dream up some new elevations and some tweaks that I can make to just make it even more interactive and unique and dope. But man, I can't wait to get out and rock with y'all. Anomaly Tour 2025. Make sure y'all hit up the website, copy your tickets. I think it's harrymackofficial.com/shows. That's it. So, and we'll have the link in the description as well. But would love to see some of y'all on this next tour if we're coming somewhere near you, or if you want to make a trip. But yeah.
Any big just clear takeaways from 2024 in general? You did a little bit of, every little area of what you kind of typically do. You did the collabs. You did a little bit of touring.
Yeah.
Kind of on a higher scale than before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, takeaways. I mean, I think, this year there was a lot of growth obviously for this community, but also for me personally. I think there was a lot of kind of experimentation this year, like deciding, hey man, even though this isn't really what I'm most known for, I really want to go hard on the recorded music and the written material. I really want to see, what I can learn about that and how I can grow in that area. And now that's something where it's like, okay, that's always going to be a part of, how I creatively express myself going forward, right? And so that's big. And I think, my big takeaway is just when things feel scary, oftentimes that's, the calling that is telling you that, hey, this is really where you should be channeling the energy, right? Not all the time. So you have to know when you're scared because something is dangerous or actually not good for you, right? Because you can be scared when there's reason to be scared. But I think for creatives, I'll just speak as a creative myself, and I think all human beings are creative in one way or another, right? But yeah, for artists and content creators and anybody who's putting themselves out there like that, oftentimes when we have an idea that scares us, it's like, well, I think I'd like to explore this, but I don't know if I can. I don't know if that's for me. Like, I don't know if I can do that. That seems terrifying. That usually is a sign that it's like, well, that's probably exactly what you need to do, right? That's exactly where you need to be focusing your energy. I had a bar about that actually in one of the songs that I wrote because it was so prevalent on my mind. Plan in motion. I'm trying to remember exactly what the bar was, exactly where I need to go next to set my life free. But yeah, that was the punchline. It was like, whatever's scaring me, that's exactly where I need to go next to set my life free. And so I think that's true. And I think that's my takeaway from this year, like freestyling for the Yankees, freestyling for Will Smith. God damn, can I really do that? That whole imposter syndrome thing, right? Of like, oh, I don't know if that's for me. That seems that's too elevated. That's crazy. I don't know if I'm ready for that. And, it's like, get out there and do it, push yourself, stretch yourself. And even the festivals, performing in front of 10,000 people. It's like, does my show work in front of 10,000 people? Especially a festival audience where they're not there because they're big Harry Mack fans per se, maybe in the front, right? But as the crowd moves closer and closer to the outer edges of the venue, they might not have any idea who I am. So does my music connect with those people? And obviously these are incredible opportunities. I'm so grateful to have them, but I'd be lying if I said there wasn't fear that surrounds these kinds of opportunities where I'm going to be putting myself out there like that. So that's probably my biggest takeaway. And it's so funny because it's like, well, isn't that the same takeaway you had back in 2020? And isn't that the same takeaway you had back in 2017? And it's like, yeah, man, some lessons you just keep learning them again and again and again and again. And it's like, as soon as you learn it one time in one way, life presents you with another challenge that's even crazier and even harder than anything you've had to deal with in the past, right? And it seems to me that that's what life is all about. You figure it out at one phase of life, but you don't just check it off a list. Oh, I figured it out. Oh, life, check, good, I'm cool. I don't have to feel imposter syndrome. I don't have to feel fear anymore. I don't have to doubt myself ever again. Wouldn't that be nice, But actually, I don't know. I don't know if that would be nice because there's no joy without pain, And so suffering and failure and learning how to recover from the suffering and the failure and how to transmutate that into something positive, I think is probably what makes life so beautiful. So that's my big takeaway from 2024.
It's interesting. It's almost like that fear's on both sides of if you're about to do something and you're feeling that, a little nervous, anxious about it. It's almost like, what if it goes poorly or what if it goes well? And then you're stuck with new stakes that are elevated. And then can I back that up? It's like, just the whole thing is you got to decide if you want to go through that door or not.
Yeah, exactly. The burden of success is a real thing too. It's like, oh, fuck, all of a sudden I have an audience, Like there was a time when none of my freestyles were heard by anybody other than my best friends,
right.
Up in Brady's attic. And that has a certain safety to it, And so then it's like, oh, well now, like every time I do a freestyle and it's filmed, it might be seen by 1 million people, It's like, wow, that seems a little stressful, So, and that's why it's important not to judge, right? Whether somebody is struggling for lack of success or struggling from the burden of success, everybody has their own issues that they're dealing with, and it's all just sort of relative to your own life experience. So,
the song Plain in Motion. Fear ever present, but I won't let it derail me. Nah, use it as fuel, let it propel me. Whatever I be scared of most, that's more than likely exactly where I need to go next to set my life free.
Boom. Couldn't have said it better myself. Hell yeah. Yeah, that's my takeaway, man. That's my takeaway. Etched in stone or etched in vinyl, melted into the wax, and forever captured in that song. And again, that's what's so cool about that phase of writing so much music in the first part of this year is it's a time capsule. It encapsulates what I was thinking and feeling during that time. And there are themes that have emerged organically from that time. So really dope.
Hell of a year, man. Hell of a year.
Yeah, but you know what the biggest thing to talk about this year is? Flow State Podcast, baby. This podcast was started at the beginning of February this year, and it's something I have been talking about doing for a long, long time, and I'm so excited that this thing is really in motion. More than 20 episodes in now, such incredible guests that have come on and blessed this studio. I'm just so humbled to be able to engage in conversations with people, all of whom I'm a massive fan of, all of whom I have just this immense amount of respect for. And I also just have really, really enjoyed having these opportunities during these solo episodes to just speak my truth and share my thoughts and feelings and pose questions and discover things about myself in real time in front of this beautiful audience and this super supportive audience. I mean, reading the comments on the podcast episodes has just been so inspiring, so encouraging. There's so much love coming back my way. And, the most important thing to me, it's like if I'm going to do a podcast, I don't want to do it just because, everybody's doing a podcast. I want to do it because I feel like I'm able to actually provide real value to real people. That's the only reason to do it, in my opinion. And it's just been awesome to get that validation back from you guys and to see like people saying such nice things and things that they're taking away from both the guest episodes and the solo episodes, and to see that it really is providing value to people out there means everything to me. So just want to send a huge shout out and just say thank you from the bottom of my heart to everybody that's been supporting this podcast and showing up and riding with us, man. And we're just getting started. I mean, it's just the very beginning. It's a beautiful thing. So shout out to everybody for being here, man.
Just getting started.
Yes, sir.
Tight. I've got a Flow State clip here if you want to peep this. It's like from F1. So you were talking about Kobe a second ago.
Yes.
I would love to just start pulling clips that like embody Flow State. Maybe it says it head on. Maybe it just, is aligned with it.
Hell yeah.
And I saw this old clip just like on social media at some point, like a couple weeks ago, of a driver, F1 driver. They were talking about Flow State a little bit. This is an exclusive clip from Senna, a documentary on Brazilian Formula One racer Ayrton Senna. Senna describes his almost spiritual experience racing in Monaco and his feeling of racing way beyond my conscious understanding, which is like, that's Flow State. Right
that's
there.
That Flow State shit. Hell yeah.
Kobe, we were wondering if he says Flow State like straight up. I think he called it the zone. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. And that's the easiest way to describe flow state, in my opinion. If somebody's unfamiliar, it's like getting in the zone. Most people are familiar with that concept. So, yeah.
So these are dope. I'm going to look for more of these for future episodes. Feel free to shout anything out in the comments if you know of one.
Yes.
So let's peep this one.
Yeah, let's check it.
that day, I suddenly realized that I was no longer driving it conscious, and I was in a different dimension for me. The circuit for me was a tunnel, which I was just going, and I realized I was well beyond my conscious understanding.
That's insane.
Wow. Damn, that's insane. I mean, first of all, that's like, I'm like, my whole body is tense watching that. Just to imagine like being able to do that. I mean, that is incredible, man. Going so fast and then hitting those turns. And it's like, it's just like you have to be perfect with the, I would assume. I mean, I did a simulator once. If anybody saw the collab I did with Google Chrome and F1, I did get to do a simulator and I did horrible. So, yeah, I imagine it just has to be the perfect touch on the pedals. Like, too much gas or too much brake, too much of anything, and steering too at those turns, and it's all over. So, I mean, that's, first of all, just amazing to me, the level that those people are at to be able to do that. And yeah, the words.
For him, he said, it was like the track was falling into a tunnel. Like,
yeah, the circuit became a tunnel.
which is so dope. That's like the flow state element to it, right? It's like it's like gravity's taking you almost. Like he wasn't thinking about being perfect necessarily.
Right. And that's the thing is like a big component of flow state is, not having any extra bandwidth to think about other things. So it's like, that's the whole, one of the things that's so blissful about being in flow is that you're no longer self-conscious. Like, you're not worried about how you're sitting or how you're looking to other people. You're not even aware that anybody else in the world would be there to judge you. It's like total tunnel vision. That's how I describe it as well. It's like tunnel vision to the task at hand. All that matters is the task that's right there in front of you. And it's just challenging enough to require your full mental facility to be able to deal with the task at hand. And when you're using your full mental facility, you have just the appropriate level of skill to accomplish it successfully. So it's just this feedback loop that is inherently rewarding, where it's like, it takes all that you've got and you're nailing it. So you're trying your hardest and you're nailing it. And it's just, you're constantly seeing this feedback of like, I imagine for this driver, it's like, that turn, got it. Okay, but you're not thinking back on it anymore. It's just like, I have to focus through this turn, nailed it. Focus through this turn, nailed it. Focus to get around this guy, nailed it. And it's just, that's the flow, and it becomes this tunnel vision. So I love the way that he described it. The circuit became a tunnel.
That's cool.
It's like everything else just blacks out on the peripheral, and you're just so zoned in on what you're doing. That's inspiring, man.
Yeah, that is what's cool about it. It's like flow state at the highest level is usually watched by, the world. So like whether it's Kobe in the fourth quarter, this racer in one of the biggest races in the world.
Yeah.
They don't know that in the moment though, you put yourself there and you think, wow, like all these people are watching me. That's how you would think.
Yeah.
No, that's not what's happening for, these top guys.
Exactly. And if you stop to think about that, it would potentially mess the whole thing up.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a delicate kind of balance. But yeah, and I mean, watching the highest level of flow state is so amazing to witness, right? And that's why like we're so in love, partly I would assume, with like elite athletes, for example, right? Or elite performers of any kind. I just yesterday watched the Black Thought 11 and a half, whatever it is, freestyle on Funk Flex. I remember to watch it like about once a year.
Yeah.
I'm just in my living room with tears in my eyes, dude. Like because I'm just, and that's why, because I'm just like, this is the exemplary freestyle performance. It's just amazing, man. I mean, it's just bar after bar after bar for 11 and a half minutes over the same beat. And you just get into this, you're just like in this hypnotic sort of zone. And so anyway, to see that, witnessing another human in flow state is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that with me, dude. And I love this idea of checking out clips like this and talking about them. There's so many out there. So, and yeah, echoing what Sam said, drop them in the comments. Let us know if I'm sure you all have come across interesting clips or books or anything, quotes. If you have anything that sort of pertains to this idea of flow, drop it in the comments. Let us know. We'd love to incorporate it. Another way to get in touch with us, as you know, is harrymackofficial.com/flowstate Pod, and we'll have that link in the description if you're watching on YouTube. harrymackofficial.com/flowstatepod. Send us your questions. I want to answer some community questions right here and now. Thank you to everybody who's sending them in text form. Also, we would love if people started sending them as audio notes, which you can just record on your phone and upload through the site. Should be pretty easy. Videos would be great too. But yeah, love to hear from you guys. So let's hop into some of these community questions.
Yes, sir. Got one from Jack here.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Jack. The question is, do you feel pressure to be a role model? When did you first realize that is part of being a public figure, and how do you approach that? Thank you for the continued positivity you put out into the world. It's much needed. Well, thank you for the kind words, Jack, and thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And this is a great question. Do I feel pressure to be a role model? I actually have a couple thoughts on this. I kind of have like two different lines of thinking on this that maybe they're conflicting, or maybe they're just, it's one of those situations where you kind of have to hold two truths together at the same time. On the one hand, I sort of feel like we as society put a little bit too much pressure on, let's say, celebrities or public figures to be these great role models in every aspect. Or maybe we don't put too much pressure on them. I don't know if it's that, but it feels like we have an unrealistic expectation almost that just because somebody is really excellent at this one thing, and because they're so excellent at it, now they've become famous, right? That somehow that suggests that they're perfect, or that they're the ideal role model for everybody, any and everybody, and that they can speak on anything and what they say will be correct or will be inspirational or will be what's needed. I just think that's not very realistic. We're all flawed human beings. We all have strengths and weaknesses. And so to assume that just because somebody is really great at sports, let's say, or really great at freestyling, really great at music, that somehow that means they're the voice that should be listened to for everything. I just think that's unrealistic. And I always remember this one clip I saw years and years ago of John Mayer, and it's been a long time since I saw the clip, so I'm basically paraphrasing, but it was essentially, it's like he's leaving some event or something, and it's kind of like a TMZ situation where there's like a paparazzi person with a video camera, and they're asking him about some kind of like law or policy that's being like hotly debated at the time, that's going to be voted on soon. And they're basically like, hey, John Mayer, what's your take on this? And he's like, I don't know. He kind of just keeps it moving. And then they ask him again. They're like, no, but everyone wants to know, like, do you feel this? Are you on the side of blah, blah, blah? And he kind of gets a little irked, and he turns around and he's like, hey, man, I don't know if you're familiar with who I am or know what I do. I play guitar. I'm pretty fucking good at it. And he's like, you know what I'm not very good at? Discussing public policy. And then he just turns and keeps walking. and I respected it. I respected it because, it kind of speaks to what I'm mentioning now, where it's like, yeah, just because somebody's a great guitarist or a great songwriter or a great musician, why does that suggest that they're who we should be listening to when we're talking about like laws and policies, that govern all of society? Maybe they're really informed, and maybe they have a really great take, and maybe they're really passionate about it, but not inherently. And so I think it's important to, to keep that in mind. And there's also this whole notion of like, they say that to be a grandmaster in chess, you kind of have to abandon all other aims in life. And I'm sure there are plenty of exceptions to that. And I'm not sure that's true in the modern world necessarily, but I get what they're saying, where it's like, in order to be that good at chess, it consumes you, and it would have to consume you. And it's the same for like, some of the greatest like instrumental improvisers, John Coltrane, just obsessive practicer, right? 12 hours, 15 hours a day kind of thing. That's why he's John Coltrane. And so to be a grandmaster, to be a John Coltrane level improviser, when do you necessarily have the time to become really intelligent about all kinds of other things that would allow you to be, a really critical voice, right, in, say, public policy? And you can make the argument that everybody should be informed about these things, and I think there's an argument to be made there for sure. But I also think it's unrealistic to assume that celebrities are going to be these great role models for everybody just because they're celebrities, right? So there's that. On the other hand, I feel like we are all role models in a sense, whether we realize it or not. And that actually every day we have many opportunities to be role models in some way, shape, or form. And so I think parents are obviously role models to their kids. Teachers are role models to their students. An older sibling is a role model to the younger sibling. And I think just all of us as human beings, if we go out into the world, if we go to the grocery store, even if we're by ourselves, there are opportunities for us to be role models to all the strangers around us, in very simple ways that I think can be really, really powerful. And I always think about, because we travel so much and we're always on planes, and there's that moment when the plane lands, and especially if it's been a long flight, everybody's feeling uncomfortable. People are tired. People are waking up from weird nap times and things like that. Some people are nervous about making their connections. Some people are worried because they don't think their bag made it on the plane. There's all these sort of stressors, right? At that moment when you're waiting for that ding, where it's like you can take your seatbelt off and get up and start to file out. And even when that happens, it's very stressful because some people are in a hurry and, there's all these miscommunications happening and people are accidentally cutting people off and on and on and on. And so it's hard in those moments to be the best version of ourselves, right? Like we become sort of self-centered in those moments. Like it's all about me, and what I need right now. And when everybody's feeling that in a large group, it can create issues. And I always think, how awesome it is when you see somebody, let's say there's an older person who's struggling to get their bag down from the overhead compartment. It's so awesome when you see somebody behind them deciding to reach up and help them get their bag down, right? Even though it's not necessarily what's most beneficial to them in that moment. They're being selfless in that moment and they're helping somebody else. And I think in that moment, that person who is deciding to set their own bag down, maybe slow things down a little bit in that aisle in terms of everybody getting out there as fast as possible. And they're doing that intentionally so that they can help somebody who's struggling. In that moment, they're a role model to everybody around them that gets to witness that, right? And that might just be 5 to 8 people. But I think that can be immensely powerful. And if those 5 to 8 people that witness that like small act of kindness, right? Like not putting yourself first, if they're inspired to embody that more themselves, then I think that ripples out in a really beautiful way. So, I think when you ask me, and I think it's a great question, do I feel pressure to be a role model? I would just swap out that word pressure with responsibility. I feel a responsibility to be a role model to a degree, in that I feel a responsibility to do my very best to keep my ego in check and to exemplify kindness when I'm interacting with other human beings in the world. Because I think that if we all did that, so many of the world's problems would go away like that, right? And it's easier said than done. And we all have bad days, myself included. And in no way am I perfect or even close to perfect. But I think remembering that, our actions, even if it doesn't seem like it, they are being seen by others and they're being felt by others, right? And so, yeah, that's how I feel about being a role model.
I find it interesting. I hadn't really thought about this so clearly, I guess. With like the John Mayer thing, like when it comes to like public policy or like a cause, I think it is like unfair to just assume that if you have a platform, you have to be passionate about and vocal about, any certain one thing there.
Yeah.
Because like it's better if he says, I'm a guitar player and then doesn't speak on it if he's, not educated on it. You would prefer that other than the, alternative. I don't know. It's weird that we just, hey, you got a huge platform because you're great at basketball. Why aren't you speaking out about this? Like, It's like, I don't know.
I agree. And I think, saying the wrong thing because you just felt pressure to say anything could be a lot more harmful than just being honest. That's why I respected that clip, because he was just being honest, where he was like, I can't speak to that. I do this thing and I'm not going to speak to this other thing that you're asking me about because I don't know. And I really respect that too, because it's like, even for me having this podcast, I was joking earlier, there's that whole thing of like, everybody has a podcast. It's very popular to have a podcast right now, which is great because it's awesome to have a podcast. I love having one. And so I encourage anybody who wants to have one. Yeah, absolutely. You should do it. But there is this thing where it's like we see people on this SM7B professional looking microphone with this backdrop, and anything they're saying, it can sort of feel like whatever they're saying is official, right? And I try to be mindful of that because, yeah, like I'm obsessed with music and practice. I've been very tunnel vision focused on becoming, first the best drummer that I could be, and then now the best freestyler and rapper and artist that I can possibly be. And that's where most of my focus goes most of the time, right? Is getting better at that. And so I do try to be mindful that like when I'm on this podcast, it's like this podcast is called Flow State, for example, right? I am not a neurosurgeon. I am not a psychologist, right? Like there are people who have science-backed books on the phenomenon known as flow state, right? That cite hundreds of scientific journals, that can really speak to what flow state is from a neurological standpoint, from a psychological standpoint, and so on and so forth. I'm not that. I'm a freestyler who loves learning about flow state. And so I just think it's important to kind of acknowledge that, right? And to recognize that, I am not the foremost expert on the science of flow. So, and even down to the things that I choose to share about my personal journey on this podcast, where it's like, I like meditating and journaling, but I'm not prescribing that to anyone and everyone who watches or listens to this podcast. It might not be the right thing for everybody, right? And so that's what I respected about that John Mayer moment. It was funny, obviously, the way that he went about saying it. And I'm sure he's a huge celebrity. So, I'm sure he gets hassled all the time. And all things considered, I think he handled it in a kind of cheeky, fun. It was kind of a fun clip. I don't think he said anything that was too rude or hurtful to that person. But, I respected that he just told the truth. He's like, hey, I'm not an expert on that.
Right.
Yeah. And we're so like afraid to say I don't know these days, it feels like, because you don't want to be shit on for not knowing. Right. But I think it can be brave to say I don't know if you really don't know, rather than say some shit you're not sure about,
Yeah, that becomes a problem, to be honest, if we're all doing that too much.
Exactly.
Things get a little dicey out here. Mm-hmm. Dude, we got to have one of those, like neuroscientists or somebody on to talk flow state.
We got to have Mihai Csikszentmihalyi on here. That would be flow state epic. Expert. Yeah. Yeah.
That would be epic.
Hell yeah. Thank you, Jack. Great question. Let's see what we got next from Carol. Carol says, I love rap and hope to turn this passion into a future career, but I'm very shy. What advice do you have for how I could overcome the fear of putting myself out there to the world? Shout out to you, Carol. Thanks for being vulnerable in this question. I think it's an awesome question. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, whether they have the ambition to be a rapper or even a musical performer. I think no matter what it is that you're trying to do as a human being, you got to put yourself out there to succeed, right? At some point. So, this is an important question. I think my advice for somebody who wants to be a performer, but they're shy is, it's nothing groundbreaking. I'm sure you've heard this before, but I think you just have to take baby steps, You got to just start really, really small. I've mentioned this a bunch of times, but my first public performance, I didn't end up performing because I just cried the whole time. And that was my first violin recital. What's funny is I was actually remembering like the details of that. I don't think I could play a song yet. I think I had like just gotten my real violin, because for the first like 6 months or so, I was on this like Cracker Jack box violin. Like it was like a box of Cracker Jacks in wrapping paper. I didn't know what was in it. And so my teacher was like, yeah, and after you graduate from this violin, you get to unwrap it, and there's a surprise for you. And it was Cracker Jacks. But it's shaped like a violin, and you learn how to like be in the resting position, and then how to like bring it into the playing position. You learn everything about handling the instrument.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so I had like just gotten my real violin, and I think all I was going to do was go on stage with the other students who were at my level. There was a handful of us. And we were just going to go from the resting position where the violin's under your arm into the playing position where it goes under your chin and you bring the bow to it, and then back into the resting position and then bow. That was like what I was tasked with doing. And even that was unfathomably terrifying at the time. So I just cried and I couldn't get up there in front of the people. And I failed. I failed to do the first performance for that reason. But it was a massive stepping stone, right? Because it was my first one. And sometimes you have to get the first one out of the way. So I share that story because I fully understand what it feels like to be too shy to perform. And, if I trace back my career as a rapper, as an MC, it's just been very gradual and very incremental. The beginnings of me rapping, it was almost like a secret. It was just for me and my best friends who were also trying to do it. So they benefited as well from having this sort of like secret talent that only I was aware of. And so it was mutual in that sense. It's like we're all part of this secret society, you know, Rappers Anonymous, and we don't have to share it with anyone who's not also in the arena trying. And that's so cool, you know, to be in that safe sort of space. And then it was incremental. It's like, okay, now we're doing this over at Brady's house, you know, yeah, like his mom might be able to hear us through the floor, you know? All right, that's okay. Like, she supports what we're doing. Okay, it's fine. And then eventually it's like, yo, let's invite some of the other homies over. It's like, should we invite them over? They don't rap. Like, they can't relate to what we're trying to figure out and how hard this is. It's like, yeah, you know what? Like, but they're cool. They're the homies, man. Like, let's just have them come through too. And then, so now they're in the mix and they're enjoying it and they're having fun and it's a big hang. And then eventually it's like, you know, the parties start happening somewhere and, you know, freshman year of high school, maybe it's like first house party experience. And oh, wow, there's a cypher happening at this party. Let me hop on that. Now you're rapping and there's all these people, non-captive audience. They can either come up to the cypher and listen if they want, or they can just walk away, right? So there's no real pressure, but there's still kind of like strangers, people who are not really necessarily your friend. Maybe they're an acquaintance or somebody you know from school or from a neighboring high school, and they're in the mix. Right. And it just continued like this, so on and so forth. Eventually we get our first show and now we're doing our first show. Our first show was probably in front of, you know, just not so many people. Right. And then over time you start performing in front of more people. And then you get to the point where you're excited to promote your show because you want it to be as full as possible and you want it to be hype. Right. But it takes time to get there. You know, and I can say with the utmost certainty that back in 6th, 7th grade, when I first started freestyling, the notion of me walking up to a stranger and saying, hey, I'd like to do a freestyle for you. Can you please give me some random words? I would have shit my pants, man. I would have been like, what the hell are you talking about? That's not me. I'm not doing that. And now that's what I do. You know, that's what I'm most known for doing. And I'm quite comfortable doing it. I still get a little nervous though. And I don't think that ever really goes away. So, because I care, you know, and I think any artist that cares enough to want to do it professionally also cares enough to, you know, feel a little bit nervous, but it just gets better and better with each step.
What do you mean by care there? Do you care about your art? You care about, you know, how the other person receives you?
I think it's a bit of both. Okay. So like I care about the art immensely, right? Yeah. I love hip hop. Just keeping it within hip hop. I mean, I also love jazz and funk and the other genres that have been really important to me. But I love music and I have so much respect for the greats and the people that came up before me and really laid the groundwork for me to be able to do what I'm doing now. And they've taught me so much and they've helped me so much in my life. Music is such an important part of my DNA. And so I always want to, out of respect to the art, present it to the best degree that I possibly can, right? Like I want to present it the best way that I possibly can. And so I care a lot in that sense. But I also do think I care about the comfort of the audience a little bit in a live situation. And actually, I like that you asked that way because I've been thinking about that a lot recently. I actually just heard there's this great drummer named Benny Greb, and he was talking about, this is like one of those friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. He watched like a famous actor, I think, on a late night show who explained this concept, but I got it via Benny Greb, the drummer. And it's this idea that there's sort of these three pillars to people who make things. There's like the artist, there's the craftsperson, and there's the entertainer. And we all have like it's sort of a different mix. And so just briefly, like without getting too derailed, the artist creates something because they have to create it. Like inside them, they have no choice. They have to create it. And it doesn't matter if anybody likes it. And it doesn't matter if people hate it. And actually, like, they might kind of like it if people hate it, you know? Like in some ways that's appealing to the artist, you know, because they have such a strong vision. They don't give a fuck how anybody else feels about it. It has to come out of them. So that's the artist. The craftsperson is like somebody who figures out how to make the perfect chair, you know, and they have this way that they think a chair should be made and they figure out how to make it. And they're very satisfied just making it again and again and again and again and just getting incrementally like tiny details get slightly better each time. But they just want to keep making that chair more and more perfect, right? And then the entertainer obviously wants to entertain, meaning they want the crowd to be satisfied. Like the magician that goes out on stage and makes the card disappear isn't satisfied if the crowd's just like, ah, no, like that wasn't impressive to us. You know, that's the whole point. They're trying to entertain you. And so I love that. I love that because it makes so clear this feeling that has existed in my mind and my heart for so long of like trying to figure out how I fit in and who I am and what I value as a creator, right? And you know, I just have to be honest with myself. There's a lot of entertainer in me, you know? And that doesn't mean, and I also have elements of those other parts too. And I think probably everybody has a little bit of maybe all of them. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of entertainer in me, meaning I want the crowd to enjoy what I'm doing from the stage. And that is sort of the point to me in some senses, you know? So like when I'm doing my live show, I've talked about this, it's like I go out there and I'm trying to win the crowd over. And so in that sense, I'm an entertainer. And yeah, sometimes that can be hard to acknowledge or admit because I think there's, in a sense, there might be this feeling that an artist is superior to an entertainer. Like an entertainer is like a jester or somebody who juggles burning machetes, and an artist is Van Gogh, you know, and or Kendrick Lamar, you know, right? Who I love. But yeah, there can be sort of maybe a judgment around it. And I don't think the judgment is necessary of the craftsperson either. I also have a high degree of craftsperson. I just sit there and work on basic setup punchline. And it's like, don't you have that part? And I'm like, no, it gets way more perfect than I have it now. It's like, I'm zooming in till the way that I'm perfecting it is so small that only I know. So yeah, I think bringing it all the way back to your question, when I say, I get nervous still because I care so much. Yes, I care about presenting the art and the craft to the best of my ability. And I also care about the crowd being satisfied with what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. And like Kendrick is an incredible entertainer. But I think, you know, with you, I mean, your stage presence is wild. Like we're always throwing parties when you're on stage, you know?
Yeah.
But I think like it sounds like the root of it was artistry. Like you couldn't help but get these freestyles out.
Yeah.
And then, you know, everyone, if you can become that entertainer too, if you like that, then that's awesome. And it can, you know, prove dividends. But
exactly.
Seems like it started there.
Yeah, and there's definitely. And it started with a love for music, which is art, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, most performing artists are some part artist and some part entertainer, right? Yeah. But, you know, there's also Miles Davis with his back to the audience.
Yeah.
The whole set. And like, and Duke Ellington, like the folklore says, Duke Ellington, one of the great showmen of jazz, who was very much an entertainer and a genius artist, so exemplified both, going out to Miles Davis's show and going up to him afterwards and being like, if I ever see you with your fucking back to the audience the whole time again, I'm going to, like, that's unacceptable.
Matters to him.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? Face the audience. So therein lies that sort of, those sliders, right?
Yeah.
Of the artist versus the entertainer. So,
love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Hell yeah. All right, let's see what we got next. This one comes from David.
It's kind of a two-part question.
Okay, cool. Sweet. All right, David with a two-parter. How do you learn from your mistakes to transition those failures into growth? Great question. And then, what do you believe is the most significant lesson you've learned from your journey in music? Wow. The big ones. How do you learn from your mistakes to transition those failures into growth? I think I'll just speak, you know, to my experience, because it's interesting thinking about like the mechanics of that. Like, how do you do it? I'm not sure I know like on the micro exactly how it works, but I would say like on the macro, for me, I have found that sometimes you have to fail really hard. And sometimes until you fail really hard, you don't actually learn the lesson and you don't actually get the growth. And, you know, I'll share a little story from way back in the day, not all the way back to the first recital, but many years ago when I was a wee sixth grader or maybe a seventh grader, me and Brady, who was, you know, the DJ in my group State of Mind at the time, we were affiliated with this place called Ethos Music Center, which was basically like a music lesson studio for kids. And they had a turntablism teacher there. This dude named DJ Apostle. Shout out to DJ Apostle. I have no idea what he's up to these days or if he's still active as a DJ, but he was an amazing teacher and an incredible DJ and scratch artist and hip-hop turntablist, you know, in a true sense. And he was just this incredible mentor to me and Brady when we were in middle school. And so Ethos was going to do this benefit concert. They were raising money for, I think, for music education. And so they partnered with this really popular group in Portland called Pink Martini, which they're like a great band. They play Latin music. And so we were going to do this benefit show with Pink Martini and some of the like star students from Ethos Music Center at the Aladdin Theater in Portland, which is like a 500 or 600 seater in Portland. Really beautiful old venue. And it's a big deal to be able to perform there. And so, you know, again, I'm maybe 12, 13 years old. And me and Brady are one of the, you know, groups of star students that's selected to basically open up for Pink Martini at the Aladdin Theater. And there were, you know, 4 or 5 others, maybe a piano player, maybe a violinist. I remember there was this singer. She was our age as well. And she was this like really impressive vocalist who could really belt. And so it was a cool thing. And a really cool thing. At that time, it was like, we were like, holy shit, this is by far the biggest performance we will have ever done. And so we wanted to do something really dope for the performance. So we wanted to like do something fresh, like a new song. And so we had been working on this song called New Mind State. And yeah, I had the beat in Fruity Loops. And, you know, it was all mapped out with the sections. And, you know, there's like my verse. I knew where it was going to go, but I didn't have the lyrics yet. And all of our songs back then, by the way, funny point, they would have a extended scratch solo. All of them. Either at the end, sometimes just in the middle. Like a minute and a half of just scratching.
I love it.
Yeah, it was so insane, cool. Dude. Our songs were like 7 minutes, and it would be like 2 minutes of scratch. All right, now comes the scratch part. Tight. But yeah, so we had it mapped out, but I didn't have my lyrics yet. So I was working on it. And so my deadline in my mind to finish this song was the dress rehearsal for the performance. And some of you might, you know, already see how that could be a problem. But in my mind, I was like, oh, first time I have to perform this is at this dress rehearsal. So as long as I have the song by then, I'm good. And it was like, I wanted it to be great. So I'm probably procrastinating it. You know, I don't remember. But I pushed it right up to the deadline. And it was like I finished my last line, like maybe the day of the dress rehearsal. And I completely forgot that I would need to leave time to memorize it. And it just didn't dawn on me. And so I was like, oh, great. I have the song. It's fire. Fuck. Now I have to try to cram this thing before this dress rehearsal. So I'm nervous. I'm frantically trying to memorize it. It's so fragile. The material's so fragile in my brain, which I'm sure you can relate to. It's the same as when you cram for a test, right? It's like, it's the most fragile little structure in your head. And if one piece gets lost, it all falls apart. That's how the song was. And I'll never forget, we get to this dress rehearsal, DJ Apostle's there. He's so excited for us. All the staff from Ethos is there, the parents, you know. We go up on stage, beat drops. And the funny thing about this song, New Mind State, was it had like a minute and a half of instrumental intro. I have no idea why. We thought that was so dope. I remember just being like, yo, this intro is crazy. Yeah. And it just builds up. It was just like a bass line and like little percussion elements would come in and out. All these like percussion elements that only happen once and never happen again, like a tambourine. You could just imagine somebody standing up with a tambourine and be like, ching, 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 and that's it. Like, and then he just left the stage. So it had a long intro and a whole like minute and a half for me to sit there and realize I don't fucking know this song at all. And then when it comes time for my lyrics to come in, I maybe got through 1 bar, 2 bars, brain freeze, lock up, nothing. And I'm just standing up there, man. Brady's looking at me like, bro, what the hell? You know, I'm looking out there. DJ Apostle's like, oh, he realizes what's happening. You know, he's looking down. The staff at Ethos are looking at each other like, what's supposed to be happening? First of all, was that minute and a half intentional? And also, why are there only 2 lines? And what's this kid doing? And I was literally just frozen stiff. Like, I just couldn't even move, really. And then I would like try to pick up a line. I mean, it was really bad, really, really bad. And it crushed me, you know? And in hindsight, yeah, like, okay, cool, man. You're 12, you're 13. Like, how pivotal is this really? But for me, man, it was earth shattering. It was everything, you know? And yeah, it hit so hard. And the thing was, me and Brady were supposed to be the last of the kids to perform, like leading right into the headliners, Pink Martini. And, you know, everyone had put a lot of stake in us, like really killing it. And I dropped the ball because I forgot to leave time to memorize the song. And it's crazy, man. When I say sometimes you just have to fail really hard, that moment was huge for me. And the next week, because we had like a week between that dress rehearsal and the performance, I was just in my basement every day after school for a couple hours at least, just running it, top to bottom, forward and back, doing it hype, doing it soft, doing it every way I could imagine. And my mom still talks about that. It made a mark on my mom as well. I don't even think she was at the dress rehearsal with us. I think Brady's mom took us, but she remembers that time and she always says, "Yeah, I remember you felt so bad about the dress rehearsal, but you also were so impassioned to get it right." And it was a huge thing for me. And that night at the Aladdin Theater, we went up there and you could tell everyone was nervous. Like when we got there, like I remember DJ Apostle being like, "Yo, so Harry, man, how'd it go? Did you work on the song?" It was like I was having to they were trying to be nice about it, but they were trying to get a feel. And it's funny too because they switched the order. We were supposed to be the last one before the headliners, but they ended up putting the singer, who was really great. She totally deserved it too, but they ended up switching us with her, so we were second to last. Totally fair decision. But we killed it that night. And that lesson stuck with me. But I think that when you ask how to turn mistakes and failures into growth, I think I had to have that experience. I had to really fall flat on my face in a very real, tangible way. I had to feel the hurt of that and feel the pain of that in order to grow. And sometimes, honestly, I think if you're not really feeling it, you're not going to learn the lesson, right? And I always think, if you're a drummer and you have to get to the gig half an hour before it starts to set up your drums, and in the beginning you're really good about that, but then eventually you're showing up just 20 minutes before, but it's usually fine. And now you're showing up just 10 minutes before, and you can scramble and get it set up on time, and you can be ready for that first downbeat. But then you get to the point where you're only showing up 5 minutes before the gig, and now the band leader's looking at his clock, and you're supposed to start 3 minutes ago, and you haven't started yet. Through that whole time of you gradually becoming less and less professional and less responsible and less skilled in managing your time, you haven't really fallen on your face yet, right? You haven't really failed hard. So it doesn't matter yet to you, maybe, right? You're like, well, why? It's like everything's still working out pretty much fine. Maybe I only need 10 minutes to set up, and it's fine until that one gig where you hit unexpected traffic because there's an accident and you only had 10 minutes to set up. And now you're 20 minutes late to the downbeat and you get fired and you lose the gig, right? And then it's like, fuck, what was I thinking? And, as much as I think it's great to learn from the mistakes of others, right? So that you don't have to make those mistakes. And that's why we read, and that's why we listen to the greats tell us about their failures and shortcomings. And that is how, we all stand on the shoulders of giants, right? And over time we bend towards justice and a better way of living. And that's all true. But to a certain extent, I think you can't always learn from the mistakes of others. Sometimes you have to make the mistake yourself and really feel the pain of it in order to grow. So that's how I think about it.
Word.
Yeah.
Did you have to perform that at all in front of them, before you had the main show, to prove that something's there now?
Nah, dude. They were just like, all right, well, bad rehearsal, good gig.
Wow.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that seems crazy, right?
Yeah. And just a quick lyric check,
Yeah.
I remember we had school talent shows or something, and they wanted my lyrics written down, we did a little acoustic thing.
Yeah. Yeah, they trusted us. We had a lot of songs we had recorded at Ethos. We were very positive.
That's right. You had been there. They had been around your music a little bit. They know what's up.
Yeah. We recorded our first CD, The Rough Draft.
That whole thing sounds dope. Ethos, and then that idea to have the top open up for an actual show is such a cool idea.
Yeah, shout out to Ethos, man. They were amazing, and they helped us a lot. My first rap performance was with Ethos at the Salvation Army. So,
nice, dude.
Yeah, when I was still in 6th grade.
Damn, you've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Portland has beautiful venues, man. I've only seen a couple, but they all have so much character from what I've seen.
Yeah.
You're talking about the Aladdin that we did. I'm sorry, what was it? It's the ballroom.
Crystal Ballroom.
Crystal Ballroom. It's so unique.
Yeah. Shout out to Portland. Dope. All right. So, and then the second question here from David, what do you believe is the most significant lesson you've learned from your journey in music? This is a great question. I think it's a lesson that I'm still learning to this day and will probably continue learning for the rest of my career, but it's, to trust your gut. And I know that's nothing new. You've heard a lot of people say that. But I just think it's so real. You have to learn how to trust your gut as a creative, as an artist. I think as you become successful, that's very attractive. You know, it draws people in. People want to be close to the success. And, you know, people have opinions and they'll share them with you, whether you ask for them or not, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing, you know, especially if it's people you trust and people who, you know, want what's best for you. But at the end of the day, you know, you as the artist are the one with the vision. And I always think back to this time when my old manager who I used to work with, Sam Katz, shout out to Sam Katz, great dude. He said it the best way that I could possibly imagine, and it really stuck with me. He was telling me at one point, he was like, you know, man, because I was struggling with this. I was like getting advice from all different sides, and I wasn't sure how I wanted to represent myself creatively and what kind of artist I wanted to be. And, you know, he was like, you know, Harry, it's like you're making a soup, man. You're stirring up a soup, and because your soup, it already smells so good, you know, it's bringing people around, and everybody wants to sprinkle their little seasoning into your soup so that they can be a part of it. And, you know, he's like, it might be fine at first. One person comes over, they sprinkle a little salt in there. Yeah, that's probably a good call. Somebody else comes over, they want to sprinkle a little thyme in there. You know, okay, maybe that works. And somebody else comes in, they want to sprinkle some chili powder in there. Like, I don't know, I didn't really think it was going to be a spicy thing. Maybe, yeah, you know. And somebody else comes in. And eventually, man, if everybody is coming up and sprinkling their own little seasoning into your soup, what are you left with? A horrible tasting soup, right? If you put all the spices in the same soup, it's guaranteed to taste disgusting. And man, I just love that way of thinking about it. And I think it's so true. You know, and I really have to think about this a lot as a people pleaser. It's like, is this what I want to be doing in terms of the creative decisions I'm making? Is this what I imagine I'm supposed to be doing? Whether that's like, this is how I'll appeal to the industry, the so-called industry, or this is how I'll become respected within hip hop, you know? And I always think about what Mos Def says, where he's like, we think about hip hop like it's this like ogre that lives in a cave that comes out every once in a while to like say hi. He's like, we are hip hop, you know? We are hip hop. Hip hop is the people. But yeah, or am I doing this because I think this will make me popular, or this song will be catchy and this will be my hit, or it's like, it can be very challenging. And that's why I say it's an ongoing lesson and something I'll probably be working on my whole career, to learn to trust your gut and to really be able to trust that inner voice and to even suss out what is your true authentic voice, because so many voices that aren't even ours get implanted into us over time from parents who are well-intentioned, or, you know, authority figures when we're young, teachers, role models, peers, bullies, whatever, right? And some of those people are very well-intentioned, but their early criticisms can sort of stay stuck in our head as a negative voice, and it feels like it's us, but it's actually not. So figuring out how to listen to yourself and trust your gut and make sure you're really like in charge of the flavor profile of your soup, I think is the biggest takeaway that I've had so far.
It's all a balancing act.
100%. Yes.
Well, dope, man. Those were great questions. Those were awesome.
Yeah. Awesome questions. Shout out to the community. Once again, send us your questions at harrymackofficial.com/flowstatepod. We would love to hear from you. In addition to questions, if you yourself are an aspiring rapper, freestyler, send us your freestyle video. I want to react to it, give some feedback. That's what we're going to get into right now. What do we got popping here for the community freestyle?
We got one from Thomas Lee.
Okay.
Artist name, LQL. He said he's up on all the platforms and stuff, so feel free to check him out.
Dope.
And he sent this in here. It's titled Setup Punchline Practice.
Dope. LQL, let's go.
Yeah.
On the mic, I'm constantly emergent. One day I will be the motherfucking freestyle spokesperson. I'm succeeding, Harry Mack. You better know that I'm too brave. On this mic, I'm causing a wave. I create when I do this. I'm staying active. I be the king in this shit. I'll get a palace, and that is right. More freestyles. I'm about to bag in my brain. Right now I don't wanna brag too much, cause look, I feel it's tense. My mind is too tense. It's hard to be in the state of zen. It's hard to really grip on the mic with no pen, but one day, this will all make sense. I know that. My shit has no limit, and one day my greatness I will be the first one to witness. You better know that. I now you hear that I tear raps, cleaning out my earwax, so there's no hearing loss. When I do this, I never stop. This shit is recurring. I know the current situation is that I'm not really deserving of all of the praise. That doesn't matter. One day I will be based. I will play this shit in my way, like Frank Sinatra. I'm causing all the drama. That's right.
Yeah.
Ooh, my way like Frank Sinatra.
tight.
That was sick.
Sick dismount.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Dope, man. Shout out to LQL. Thank you for the submission. Awesome work, my friend. Yeah, I'm hearing the setup punchline thing happening. You're successfully incorporating all of the words, which is awesome. So yeah, I also really liked your voice. I like that vocal tone, kind of higher pitched, really cuts through. I mean, I've always enjoyed that higher pitch vocal tone, like, you know, and I think it's, you know, like Big L, for example, such a hard, like menacing street dude, you know, but yet his voice is like more of that high pitch, you know, and it gives it this really cool, like almost like comic book quality. Jay-Z also had a higher vocal tone, you know. I mean, obviously I love Biggie, who has a deep low vocal tone. So, you know, I like all of it, but I particularly enjoyed your vocal tone. That was sounding fire. And yeah, and I liked the delivery in terms of the energy you're putting behind the bars and what you're saying. Like, you didn't sound timid, you didn't sound quiet. It was like your voice was well blended to the instrumental. And yeah, that shit actually sounded good too. I was curious how you were recording it, because it sounded like full. It was like a nice audio recording, which I appreciated. And yeah, I mean, dude, you're making it happen. You're finding those rhyming connections most of the time. I think the advice that I would give to you is maybe similar to some of the advice I've given to other submissions in the past, where, you know, I think for you, it's kind of about cleaning it up a little bit, which what I mean when I say that is like getting it a little bit more under your control in terms of the placement of the rhyming words, because you had a lot of like over the bar line kind of washy phrasing, where it was like, I felt like you were searching for the rhyming word, like maybe you weren't exactly sure what it was going to be yet. So you're affording yourself that little extra bit of time to find it, which is great. That's a good strategy. And you were making it sound natural enough to where it wasn't like it was jarring or unmusical. It actually worked. But ideally, as you continue to practice this stuff and your sort of like rhyme vocabulary gets a little bit more solidified, a little bit stronger, you're a little quicker to find those rhyming word options, you can really take control of like creating these nice, clean couplets where you're placing the rhyming words very intentionally, right where you want them to go. And, you know, I talk a lot about how kind of the basic placement for the rhyming word in the beginning would be like on or near count 4 of the measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rhyme, divine, flowing off the top of the brain. I'm spitting flames. Tell the sound man to be turning up the gain. That's kind of the basic way to do it. Doesn't have to stay there, right? But over time, you can place the rhyme wherever you want. You can place it on 2. You can place it on 3. You can place it in a different place every time. You can get as wild with the style as you want, and I encourage that. But I do think it's really powerful to get to a level of skill and control where you're able to actually decide in advance and say, hey, I'm going to put it on the 4 every time. Or for this next verse, I'm going to put it on beat 3 every time, and really lock into that. And that takes a really high degree of skill and control. You have to be really comfortable with all the different sort of rhyming sounds and able to pull them in quickly. And so that, I think, would be the next evolution for you as you get more comfortable with this material, is kind of like getting really solid with being in control of the rhyming word placement. And I think what's great about that, being able to do that, is it's a way in which you're able to create a high degree of trust from your audience, right? Like, they trust that you are in control of what's happening, and that beyond the shadow of a doubt, you really know exactly what you're doing. And I remember hearing this thing once. I did this like poetry masterclass thing through the masterclass website. If any of you are familiar with that or have checked it out, I was gifted a year subscription to masterclass, and I did this poetry one. And one of the things that really stuck out to me from the teacher was, he was like, when you're new and you're first sharing your first poems, right? And this applies to rap too, or anything you're doing, songwriting. He was like, you know, the audience, they don't necessarily love you yet, right? Because they don't know you. They've never heard you. But what they do love is poetry. That's why they're there to listen, right? And so it's like, if you go to a rap show, the opening act, local group you've never heard of, you don't love them yet. You've never heard them, but you love hip hop. That's why you're at the rap show. And so the best way that you can show your audience that you also love poetry, or that you also love rap is through your craft, right? Because if they love, let's just stick with rap so I don't have to keep crossing between poetry and rap. But if they love rap, then they've listened to a lot of great rappers on record, right? Maybe they've listened to Nas, maybe they've listened to MF Doom, and they hear all this multisyllabic stuff and they hear all these rhyme patterns. Even if they don't know how to define it or how to do it, they hear it and they recognize it, right? And they have a taste for it. And so if you're completely unknown to them, but you go out on stage and you display this high level of skill and this high level of control, and there's this multisyllabic rhyme thing happening in your material, and there's these different crazy rhyme patterns happening in your material, you're basically showing this audience who is completely unfamiliar with you that you too love hip hop, that you also love rap, right? And you actually love it so much that you've learned how to master these various aspects of the craft. And that's the quickest and most valuable and effective way to immediately establish trust with your audience, where they relax and they actually listen to you and they then do fall in love with you because they're like, oh, we both get it. We both like this thing. And so bringing it back to freestyling and my advice to you and why I'm so often like, you know, you want to get to a point where you could put the rhyme on the 4 every time if you wanted to. Why? Because it displays to the audience that you're in control of what you're doing and that you really appreciate the mechanics of what you're doing and that you've really mastered some of those mechanics, right? And so immediately your audience is like, yo, this dude is serious. So LQL, well on your path, well on your journey, already sounding great, getting your rhyming vocabulary together, putting in the practice, which is everything. If you continue doing that, sky's the limit for you. And just start working on, when you feel ready, start working on kind of locking in that rhyme placement and getting some real clean couplets within the bar line.
Hell yeah. That was dope.
Sick. HarryMackOfficial.com/FlowStatePod. Send us your bars. Send us your freestyles. I want to react. I want to offer something that will hopefully be helpful and valuable to you. And it's great to tap in with the community, man. So thank y'all for doing that.
For sure. It's been
Hell
tight.
yeah.
I've got a video here, another one for you to react to, of yourself.
Let's
go.
go.
I added a little note here. It was uploaded 7 years ago, December 21st, 2016. And I got curious. I was like, let me look at the Jacob Mann video. When was that posted? That was only 4 days before this. So you went viral, and then what?
Yeah.
4 days later, you riding that momentum?
4 days later, yeah. So, right, this is randomlist.com.
Yeah. Sorry.
First video on my channel. I'm 99% sure. Yeah, right? First video that I uploaded on my own channel.
Exactly.
And yeah, that's crazy that this is 4 days after Jacob Mann's Bounce House.
At least that's what the YouTube uploads were saying. So I think so.
That's definitely true then. Yeah. Well, so what happened was the Jacob Mann video went crazy. I immediately called him and was like, dude, can we get lunch? Because he had been doing YouTube for a while. And I met with him and I was like, dude, what the fuck is happening? A, and B, what should I do? And he was like, oh, dude, you should just start a YouTube channel and just start uploading your own freestyles. Like it'll be crazy. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And I went home and set up all the accounts. I remember making my YouTube, making the banner, figuring out what the dimensions are, making my Facebook, getting that banner right. I went and I made the accounts. I think it was just YouTube, Facebook, and I decided that my Instagram would now basically just be like an artist Instagram, and I set it all up. And that's when I really set the goal of I'm going to try to have a video ready every Friday. And yeah, this was the first upload, and I wasn't able to replicate what we did in the first video, Bounce House, that I made with Jacob Mann, which I've talked about a bunch, where I'm driving in his car. I was like, maybe I should just do that again, but I didn't have time to put the pieces together. And I was like, what am I gonna do? And I was like, okay, I'll make something in my in my bedroom, and that's this video.
And you pull up a website, right?
Yeah, randomlist.com.
How did you even find that? I'm actually curious. You have the random word generator, which we saw Thomas Lee using, by the way. Shout out. Yeah, dude, randomlist.com. Where did you even come across this website?
I think just Google searching random word generator, random image generator. Freestylers eventually find them all.
Yeah.
And this was one of the ones that would show you an image, which I thought was a little bit more interesting than just words at this point.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, tight. Let's give it a watch.
Let's check it. My little jazz chord progression.
freestyles.com. All the way freestyle. Let's get into it.
So funny that I shout them out.
Yo, one time, I'm coming hard. Harry Mack, I'm about to leave a rapper scarred. Yo, it ain't advised that you test me. Plugged in with the info like USB. Yeah, check it out. Off the top, got what you desire. Matter of fact, I move faster, I'm that fire wire. Harry Mack, yo, rappers cannot survive. And something like the USB, Mack got drive. Check it off the top, fake rappers I'm exposing. Hey yo, I got them tumbling like your clothing. Hey, one time, yo, I'm on the scene, I'm a fiend. Throw a rapper in the washing machine because his lyrics ain't clean. They don't land in rhythm. Mack on the track and I really make them listen. Hey yo, I be swimming, something like a sturgeon. Rappers need to get cleaned out with that detergent.
This is hilarious, man. First of all, it's crazy to see this old bedroom studio. This is way back playback, man. This is crazy. Yeah. And also just like the Canon printer up there is hilarious to me. And look at that stack of, I didn't feel the need to move that like messy stack of paper and books from the top of my desk. Like this is just really what my room looked like.
Right.
Like totally. This is way before I ever would have had the thought, like, should I compose the scene?
Right. Yeah. There's no studio lights.
Yeah, that wasn't even on my, like, who cares? Like,
Yeah.
you know, that, and there's something to that, you know, that I think is really awesome. But yeah, it's also funny building up the beat and
I love that part of it.
yeah,
Yes.
I like that too. It's crazy that I haven't done anything like that since. This is kind of just a one-off, but yeah, man, it just has a little innocence and a charm to it. Also, this is, I think, right when I was like really realizing the importance of figuring out how to scheme on a single word, or in this case, image. And you see me just doing it. This is the craftsperson thing we were talking about, where it's like I'm just trying to get a better and better and better version of this like 8-bar scheme. So it's like for each image I see, I first do a setup punchline with the thing itself, and then I talk about how I'm throwing rappers in the wash cycle and stuff like that, and then I'm talking about, you know, or like with the USB stick, how I go from USB to FireWire, and then like the USB Mac got drive.
Yeah.
I was really like experimenting and exploring how that would work for me to just continually extract more setup punchline concepts from a single word. So that's kind of cool too. This is right when that was starting.
Clean, they don't land in rhythm. Mack on the track and I really make them listen. Hey yo, I be swimming, something like a sturgeon. Rappers need to get cleaned out with that detergent. Harry Mack, one time I'm the one they can't see. Freshest MC, I open doors like a key. Moving through the doors of opportunity. Me and the track, yo, we find the unity. And when I'm on the mic, sucker rappers get slain. Step incorrect and I fill you up with pain. Mack on the track and I'm flowing off the brain. Keep all my keys together, lime green keychain. Mack on to the next, hit refresh in the state of zen. Hey yo, when I write my rhymes, I might need a pen or a pencil. Choosing the utensil, either that or neither. I'll just flow off the mental. Non-stop with freestyles, throw a tantrum. Rappers can't run, cause I spit about the random. One time while I'm playing the drums. If you step incorrect, I'll be slaying you, son. One time, Harry Mack, get you in the good mood. Freestyling like a good dude, needing some food. I'm about to go grab the dish. Homie about to slay some fish and fillet it. My rhyme, I don't play it. I lay it down off the top, I create.
Rewind it back like 5 seconds or something. There's a little mistake on the drums just because I
If you step incorrect, I'll be
say
slaying
fillet
you,
it,
son.
fillet it.
One time, Harry Mack, get you in the good mood. Freestyling like a good dude, needing some food. I'm about to go grab the dish. Homie about to slay some fish and fillet it. My rhyme, I don't play it. I lay it down
That's the
off
best part of the
top, I
drum pattern.
create. No debate, eat a sucker rapper off the plate. Yeah, one time the chaos, I'ma cause it. And after I eat them, I'ma make them go and wash it. Flawless.
pause it real quick. Yeah, I was just saying you don't have to rewind, but I was just noticing that my brain got confused because I think I was thinking of fillet a fish, but I said slay a fish, and fillet it, and the snare hand like followed my words because my brain got caught on the mechanics of the vocab, and then I was like, and that's like the coolest. That sounded so. There's happy accidents, basically.
Yeah.
That was just one of those happy accidents where the drum pattern got a little funky in a good way.
You're also operating the computer. for listeners too. Like every
Oh,
time
yeah.
he's like scrolling, you're leaving the drum machine and going over there. A lot going on, dog.
Yeah, at the end of every 8-bar phrase, I just do like a little simple drum fill, really like an anti-fill. A drum fill is usually like, it's where you do something more active as a drummer to lead into the next section. So it happens like at the end of a phrase. And so there's this other concept, which is like the anti-fill, which to lead into a phrase, you actually leave more space. And so that's what I'm doing here, but out of necessity, because it works musically, but conveniently, but it also allows me to go click next.
Right, them I'ma make them go and wash it. Flawless, every Mac, yo, I'm in it. Kicking freestyles off the top, that's infinite. Yo, I'm known for rocking on the beat, breaking rules off the sidewalk. I'm walking in the street, ill styles complete. You know I'm known to walk. I rock off the top, hit the sidewalk with chalk. Just to paint the picture, yo, my freestyle's a fiction. It's got a little dirt, a little rain, guess it's a mixture. Every Mac, yo, off the top, doing fine. My lyrics is prime, I'm about to fill it up with wine. Hey yo, off the top, do I drink the red? No way. Usually prefer the white or I sip the rosé. Although sometimes I might drink a Pinot. Coming off the top, yo, Mac has the obscene flow. Hey, check it, I'ma holler at her and her fine ass. Ask her if she wants to come through and grab a wine glass. Hey,
Pause it, yo. Wow, the Mac, man, exemplifying my name. Holler at her and her fine ass. I do not remember that. That is hilarious. Also, just boldly lying. Like, I definitely was down with red wine, but I just wanted to say something for rosé, so I said, no way. Do I sip the red? No way. Usually, I prefer a white or a rosé. You can leave the playhead there.
Word.
But yeah, dude, this is a long video, I think.
Yeah.
Like a little more than halfway through. But so funny. Dude, wow, what a moment in time.
Yeah.
Single Mac.
You want to go all the way through?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Let's get it, dude. Me too.
Hey yo, Mac is the moniker, the real name Mackenzie, and I'm plugged into your monitor. I'm up on YouTube, 100K views. Coming off the top, I'm the rapper that they choose. Yeah, check it out, I'm the freshest on the scene. They about to have me all up on their monitor screen. Yeah, off the top I told you, Mac is the moniker, and yo, I'm in charge. The rap scene is what I monitor. Hey, one time I got the people getting amped. You can't mess with my cam, I'm shine bright like a lamp. I'm coming off the tip, and I'm feeling rappers cold with fright. I'm shining bright like the lampshade light. I'm all up in it and the color is white. To freestyle is my delight, and people know I spit it so tight. Yeah, one time, yo, I do it rise above, getting love. If you was the lamp, you would get unplugged. You's a sucker. And yo, freestyle be sounding funny. I'm in the rap game, but it's not to make money. They check it off the top, I'm in the game just to MC. I'm the one they envy. They all about the Benjis. I don't need that. Yo, I'm all about the rap. You're dealing with the heavy to the Mac. I ain't for the stacks. I'm in it for the real talent. Yo, that's the challenge. These rappers got money but no skill. It's out of balance. Hey yo, I'ma silence anyone. The real rhyme ripper, the scale tipper, smooth as a slipper. All on the floor, yo, I'm cozy to your feet. Every Max rap stay cozy to the beat.
This one goes crazy, man.
Dude.
The real something. I don't know what I said right there, but all right, we can rewind that one a little bit.
Real talent, yo, that's the challenge. These rappers got money but no skill, it's out of balance. Hey yo, I'ma silence anyone. The real rhyme ripper, the scale tipper, smooth as a slipper. All up on the floor, yo, I'm cozy to your feet. Every Max rap stay cozy to the beat. I'm representing for my fleet, and I'm hard as concrete when I'm on it. And every rhyme is honest, and each line just treat it like a promise. Hey yo, I'm on beat, slippers on your feet, keep you warm, I storm. Yo, I muddle the whole rap game like a pebble in the puddle. Every Mac coming through, rappers misbehave. When the pebble hit the puddle, out expands all the waves, it ripples. Every Mac I'm leaving rappers crippled. Yo, I'm about to hit your cells with the sickle. Moving on, we about to post it to the internet. Even compared to cigarettes, I'm a bigger threat. Hey,
Pause it real quick. That was a blatant Q-tip bite. Q-tip says something like, "I hope your cells turn sickle." So anyway, I stole that from him. But hell yeah, the out from the rippling of the waves. It was good. There was good. There's some good imagery in this, man.
All the way down to a puddle.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. This is fun, man.
Yeah, it's
oh
cool.
shit. This is funny. We already had this picture.
Oh yeah.
Hey, yo,
I forgot this happened.
Pass it beyond. Hold up, I'm about to use my mic as a lyrical wand. Yo, on the mic, I'm making rappers laugh like Urkel. Back to USB drive, it seems we came full circle. Yo, why you repeating already? The site is bugged. Every Mac, yo, you know I get you high like drugs. Yo, I'll take it as a fact. It's exact. Every Mac, I'm the master of the freestyle raps. Peace.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Wow. That is so fun to rewatch and relive. It's hilarious, man. There's so many things about it where I'm just like, oh, what? You like, you know how it is watching yourself back from way back in the day, but it's also beautiful to, I mean, just hearing me flex about the 100K views. I'm up on YouTube, 100K views. I was literally just repping the Bounce House video. Like that was the only thing that I had at that time. Yeah.
Like manifesting what, you know, you're like, you said that dude on YouTube, I think, which is something that you say still.
Yeah.
And you knew it there.
Yeah.
Like, you got to say it for it to happen, you know?
Exactly. Well, and in that case, I was literally just, because Bounce House had 100K views. So I was like, I'm the dude with 100K views. But it's like, that's all I had, you know? And that's a lot, like, to be clear. Like, I'm not saying that it's not, but yeah, it's just so cool to see a time capsule of like before all this shit happened. You know, here we are 7 years later, so much has happened, so much growth. But just to look at like how it looked in the very beginning and just being in that room, so many funny little lines in that too. I go, yo, why you repeating already? The site is bugged. Like people probably thought, like it looked like I just like uploaded like 10 images in. I'm sure somebody said that in the comments.
It was a perfect ending though, because you had the full circle line and then that's a wrap.
It was perfect. Also, when I rewatch these really old videos, I forget that I was like trying to have my own like editing style. Like I always cut it halfway through the piece or the sign off, which I did here.
Yeah.
That I remember being like, that's way cooler. Like that's my thing. Like it'll always just cut right there. I used to do this little stutter thing that I forgot I did even, where it'd be like right at the start of a new clip, like in my Guerrilla bars when I would just like mix them together way back when I was editing. Like sometimes at the beginning of a new clip, it would just be like, yo, I would just like in iMovie make the smallest piece I could.
I've seen that.
And then just like Command D, Command D, Command D, Command D, Command D, duplicate it out like however many times. Capacity, that's dope. Mack off the top of the brain.
It's not cool.
Exactly. I still think it's kind of sick. Like when I watch it back, I'm like, oh, we should do that some more. But yeah, it's just fun reliving the old memories and just seeing where it all came from.
Yeah. It kind of looks similar to, you know, some of the freestyle submissions that come into us. That's why I love getting those.
Yeah.
You get to like peer into like their space, what they're doing and how they're making their music.
Totally.
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah, and it's good for me to because like, you know, sometimes it's hard for me to watch myself and I'm always looking ahead to the next thing. I don't often like go back and review. But it's cool to do that because, you know, people will be like, oh man, you've gotten a lot better. And I always appreciate that compliment. But in my head, I'm like, oh, I don't know how, you know, and I know I have, but I don't know in what ways necessarily or to what degree. I guess somewhat I do have awareness, but what I'm getting at is like to just actually look back at such an earlier version of my freestyling, I hear immediately like the habits that I had back then that I've sort of like eradicated from my style, and just the different ways in which I've improved upon how I do what I do. So that's really encouraging, you know, and I think that's a great reason to record yourself for anybody out there, whatever level you're at, beginner, intermediate, advanced. It's so important to record yourself. You know, when we're performing, our experience of what's happening is not really that realistic usually, you know, because we're so in it, which is great. You should be in it. But the way that the audience perceives it is very different from the way that we perceive it ourselves when we're actually doing it. And the only way to understand what the audience is perceiving is to record it and watch it back. And so anyway, it's cool to look back on the older version and be like, oh, hell yeah, man. Nice. I have made some progress here.
First upload ever, man.
Yeah, first upload ever. Man, what a thing. Yeah, when I actually think about what that means, thank you to everybody that's here now. And if there's anybody that's here now that's been here since back then, you are my heart. Thank you so, so much. I love y'all. And it's just so incredible what we've been able to build here. This community is so dope. So yeah, man, 7 years, still just getting started. Thank you to everybody that's here, whether you just recently joined or have been here from the beginning. And again, shout out to everybody that's watching this podcast, man. It means the world to me. I love doing this. It's such a highlight of 2024. And it's just the beginning. More exciting guests in line for you guys. Of course, more solo pods coming your way as well. And I think we'll close this one out the way we always do, yeah?
Let's get it.
Let's do it. All right, should we drop it?
On you, when you're ready.
Boom. Yeah. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah. 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 Okay, yeah, I keep it real with no facade. Different from the rest of the game, they find it odd. Dope lyrics off of the brain, I'm getting live. Shouts to everybody supporting the Flow State pod. It's like I'm in the Flow State pod, literally, cause I don't see nothing on the sides and I'm fully immersed in the craft at hand. I'm feeling blessed, son. Course turns to a tunnel, this is F1. Yeah, y'all know I'm about to slay it, but my freestyles never formulaic. I break the rules, this is true spitting. Racing on the track, I'm getting the blue ribbon. Give them the trophy, they know me. Ill lyrical drugs is making you OD. I be rhyming off the words that they throw me, or the images they show me. Back in the days I would blow trees, used to smoke weed. Nowadays I'm staying sober, but I'm high on life. High on how I slay the mic. High on all these lyrics when I say I'm right. High on the way that I be doing it without no delay each night. We gon' take it on tour and rock the stage. With the whole audience I'm bound to engage. Yeah, I'm doing me when I'm breaking it down. I'm coming right up off the mental with the craziest sound. Dope lyrics, I'm directing them here. I feel humbled when I reflect on this year. I told y'all that we had in store plenty more when I collabed with Sir Jazz and dropped 2024. Had to hit them with the banger just to start it right. Every time I kick these rhymes, they the smartest type. Yo, I charge the mic. Now we've dropped 30 plus, and I got more singles to bust. Yeah, more in the cut, more in the vault. I'ma drop them like I hit a rapper's wound with the salt. I'm the one that's getting called, it's a full assault on the industry. I cook these songs up instantly, working on my pen for 3 to 4 hours each and every morning. I felt so empowered, gotta carve some time out for that deep work. Now when I grip up on the mic, they going berserk, going crazy. Put the effort in, I'm never lazy. Yo, I don't rhyme cause it pays me. Like I said on randomlist.com, I don't do this for the Benjis, I do it for the technique, to elevate all MCs. Hey yo, I do it for the passion. That's the reason why me and my fan base are never clashing. I'm really taking action, do it for your satisfaction. When they become a deliberate spread off of the mental, they know when the Mack is smashing. I hit hard, and if you out of line, then you get scarred. Paying me regard, I'm really about my art. I'm filling up the canvas and I'm taking them there. Flow State Podcast, we gon' make them aware. Let's get it, I make y'all pivot to the side. Your brain, what I'm climbing up inside. From festivals, sold out in front of 10,000. Crowd arousing, to the Australia tour bouncing. Astounding, out there in New Zealand. To the audience, yo, how are you feeling? Turn it up another notch. Yeah, I know we came to rock, listen. Let me grab it all up on the one. The job of spitting rhymes, I get them done. Yeah, I break it down for y'all and let my sound evolve full throttle. Do I feel pressure to be a role model? Well, let me stretch the vocab with agility. Not so much a pressure, more so responsibility. Cause all of us are role models, whether we know it or not. A role model, cause my flow it is hot. So it's important that the thoughts that I drop in these lyrics are the kind that could elevate another human spirit. The power of one tiny act of kindness and the way that it can spread out so we all can align with that energy. Yo, maybe that there is the remedy. Maybe that's what's needed. Someone will repeat it when they see a kind act of assistance. Next time, even though they feel resistance, they might push their ego to the side so they can provide a little bit of shine, little bit of light, kinda like I'm doing on this mic. Yo, I think we have to. Y'all know I grip the mic and smash through. And at the same time, perhaps it's not realistic for us to think that all celebrities are role models. Is too simplistic. They might be experts in just one area, but can they help to push us all past the barrier? I don't know, we must keep it in balance. As humans, yo, that seems to be the biggest challenge. And I'm speaking for myself too, I'm not here to preach, cause so many of my ideals are still out of reach. I'm trying to get better every single day I'm breathing. I'm trying to hit new peaks, that's why I'm achieving. That's why I put practice in, y'all know I'm all about my grind. Peace to all the fans who steady blare my rhymes. Turn it up another notch in your system. Yeah, every time I kick these rhymes, they gon' listen. Top position, I hit the stage and bring the fly shit. But I know younger artists who are struggling with shyness. They don't know how to get it done, the game they want to run it, but they insecurity, they don't know how to overcome it. Well, I tell them this, nowadays you see my soul shine, but second grade recital, yo, I was crying the whole time. Couldn't even get on stage, it's amazing thinking now, cause back then all I had to do was bow. I just got my real violin, I was not on my rap attack, I was playing with the Cracker Jacks box, wrapped in the paper, and still I couldn't get up on the stage, even though the task was far from major. Asia. And that's just to show ya I have shyness too. And it's difficult, I still feel nerves, but have to see them through. What's my reason for rising to the occasion and speaking something amazing when lyrically blazing? Cause when engaging with the audience, I care about the craft, I care about them, I entertain with the flash. Yeah, hey yo, it's all different styles combined in my mind. The artist, the entertainer, the design from the crafts person. I find the perfect alignment. If you're not aware, I think y'all need to read the fine print. I'm shining bright, doing me, putting words together oh so beautifully. True indeed, who is he? The one who expresses himself musically. Okay, woo, okay, flow state, okay, flow state, yeah, okay, switch it up now, okay, switch it up now, yeah, we be getting love now, I deliver off the top of the dome, something like a mailer, yeah, if you wanna have success, then you must embrace failure, yeah, that's what it takes, especially if you wanna be great, better believe that Mack been learning from my mistakes, I wanted to leave the whole audience mesmerized, but I forgot to leave some time to memorize. I was so focused on coming up with that new song before I made music to get bread, no croutons. Yeah, I just wanted to snap with the heaters. I wanted to rock the whole crowd at the Aladdin Theater. Yo, shouts to Ethos Music Center for giving me that trust. I was on stage, I was frozen, looking like I was stuck. Cause I was stuck in ice. Felt like I was stuck in stone. Felt like I would never live it down. I was in a real dark zone. And my mom, she steady reminds me. After that, in the basement, she'd find me. Yeah, doing what I had to do. I had to smash it through. I was putting in the practice for hours at a time. Working real hard, was devouring my mind. Knew that I had to find a way to recover. Ay, did it for the music lovers. Came back and they switched the order. But I still got love from the supporters. Peace to other people back then who seen me opening up for the pink martini. Bow, we about to take it there. Ay, taking it back to the beginning. Ay, randomlist.com. Ay, even back then I was winning. Matter of fact, before YouTube, when it was just my friends, when it was just my crew. Since then it didn't end. We kept evolving. It's coming back full circle. To anyone saying they feel shy right now, believe I heard you. It's gonna take some time. You gotta put in crazy reps. Wanna overcome them obstacles. You gotta take them baby steps for real. Yeah, y'all know it ain't no facade. 2024, that's the year that we dropped the pod. To those that's been here since randomlist.com, to those that joined last week, the love is still strong. We forming that bond. This mic, my magic wand. I'm classic like a Cadillac. My tongue is like a battle axe. I'm coming with these savage raps. I'm blasting at the listener. Keep on shining bright till Harry Neck a top position. Now let's go. Yeah, Flow State Pod, y'all know what it is. We out of here. Much love, everybody.